Hey guys, Sort of Vinci here, back here with another The Division. I know last time I said survival. Weekly vendor reset. We're gonna start here in the base of operations. I usually start down in the hub, but this is where we are. Alright, so the first vendor here is the weapons vendor in the base of operations. Nothing special, but I don't know, for the rare chance that maybe somebody enjoys using the burst fire assault rifles in this game, they do have high base damage. This one's actually got a pretty good enemy armor damage roll too, 22%. But it has a couple of decent talents. Adept is good too, but it requires a lot of electronics, so it's good to get it in the third slot. But responsive is good for pretty much really any weapon type, and predatory is good for like PvE, survivability. Killing a target regenerates 35% health over 20 seconds, which especially when you're not getting shot, which is really the only time you're really going to notice it, but it does actually regenerate pretty darn fast. It doesn't sound like a lot because over 20 seconds means, say for example, just to make the numbers easier, say it was 20% health over 20 seconds, that means just 1% of your health every second. So you wouldn't think it would be all that great, but it actually does regenerate at a pretty high rate. We also got a loud vent break here with critical hit chance, stability, and critical hit damage as the primary. This is a good one for SMGs because a lot of the time you're going to be focusing on just trying to get your critical hit chance higher. That way you can hit a lot of crits rather than going for headshots, which headshots are still nice though. Alright, so now we made our way over to the advanced weaponry vendor in the base of operations still. We've got a few things to point out here. We do have another military AK, which can be decent in PvE, as I've said in my previous videos. But the talents on it aren't too great. Prepared isn't a bad talent, but especially with the AK, long range is not going to be very suitable for this weapon. Because 30 meters is quite a lot. And prepared, with it requiring the target to be over 30 meters, I would really only suggest prepared for like sniper rifles and stuff like that, maybe even LMGs. But it's also got fierce, but it has a high skill power requirement, and accurate, which I guess is okay talent, but really helps a lot more on SMGs and assault rifles. But the next weapon here we have is the tactical SASG, which is like high fire rate semi-automatic shotgun. I don't really use shotguns all that much, so I don't know what a good stagger or base damage is, but this one's got 307% stagger, 92.4k base damage, but the talents on it are really good, so this is why I'm trying to point this one out. Destructive, pretty much any weapon class makes use of destructive, especially now in PvP, that actually has an effect on players. Vicious, increasing 10% critical hit chance when more than 2 segments of health. Especially if you're someone using anything that gives you an overheal, you're going to be over 2 bars of health for a majority of the time, especially after you use like first aid with overheal. So that critical hit chance can be there for a pretty effective amount of time. And it also has ferocious in the third slot, which now, if you're thinking about it as a PvE weapon, which most of the time, especially now that shotguns kind of got nerfed, that way they aren't just abused in PvP. They're still really good in PvE because you can stagger the NPCs. You're going to be doing 15% more armor destruction. You're going to have an increase of 10% critical hit chance when more than 2 segments. And you also now have an increase of 10% damage against all elites and named enemies, which is actually great. I mean, those 3 talents are pretty much a god roll in my opinion for shotguns, which like I said, I don't use them all that much, so there could be a better way of using them, but to me, if you ask me, I'd say that's pretty darn good. Then we have a SOCOM M1A here, which has, I think for the semi-automatic snipers, you can't really get too high in headshot damage, like the bolt actions, like 175%, but 145 or 149% headshot damage, 53.8 thousand base damage. This one also has destructive, which, like I said, that talent on pretty much any gun is really good. It also has fierce, which I would probably roll away due to the fact that it has a high skill power requirement. And it also has brutal, which on any sniper is great. That's like the perfect talent. You want that. What I would do is roll away fierce for like prepared or something like that. That way you get more damage the further you are, like if you're over 30 meters. And then the last one we have here is a military M60, which has 18.9k base damage, 14% damage to targets out of cover is actually pretty high. Predatory, if you can get your skill power, I'm not far off of that. I'm like 100 skill power, so that's definitely pretty reachable. Predatory is a good skill, like I said. Dominant, every kill performed while your signature skill is active. I would probably roll that one away for sure. So I guess the talents aren't that great on this one, but the base damage and damage to targets out of cover is actually pretty decent. And the military M60, to me at least, I find the most comfort using. I find it to be probably one of the best LMGs right now. So. And lastly, we have an Omega rifle suppressor with very high headshot damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. Those are like the perfect rolls to have on a Omega rifle suppressor, and right now it's 174,000 base credits. So very cheap, very easy to come by, and you can buy as many as you want. Put them on your assault rifles primarily, even snipers. Yeah, it's probably the best suppressor out there. Alright, so we're now down here at the special equipment vendor, which uses Phoenix credits as the currency in the hub of the base or operations, like outside where the DLC entrances are. The only thing I've seen, I haven't gone down the list of armor or anything yet, but as of weapons here, the converted SMG9 is really the only thing that stands out to me. Even then, the converted SMG9 is not that great of an SMG. You can't put an underbarrel on it, and there are plenty of other, like the MP5 is definitely top tier. But this one here actually has really good roll on the critical hit damage on it. 36% is probably one of the highest you can get. 15.5k base damage. I don't know if that's all that high. Honestly, this SMG isn't too bad compared to other SMGs because the base mag size is second highest, I think, and it's tied with the MP5. The RPM isn't all that bad, and rate of fire is really the thing that makes a difference when it comes to SMGs. And 825 isn't all that bad. But the talents on here, we got Vicious, which is great to have because you want to have your critical hit chance as high as you can get it when using SMGs. Capable, I'd probably roll away, and then Determined. See, Capable and Determined aren't really great talents to have on your SMGs, but Determined, if you read it, killing a target reduces skill cooldowns by 7.5%. So that's actually a decent talent to have, and I'm pretty sure it has a high electronics requirement, so it's good to have in a third slot. And so say you're using like a support build that you're using abilities off, and you want to try and heal your teammates up. You want to get like your turret back quicker, your med kit so you can heal people, your support station, whatever it is. Alright, so next up here, as we all know, the AlphaBridge build is basically uncompetable by really any other build right now. And here we have a chest piece, so if you're looking to make an AlphaBridge build and you're missing a chest piece, this one isn't bad, at least. It's got stamina. Most of the time, anyone's going to be running stamina on primarily all their pieces. I run firearms on, I think, 2 of my pieces, which are the gloves and the backpack, I think. But everything else got stamina stacked because I want to be tanky as hell. But anyway, this one comes with armor, which you want to have armor on any piece you can get right now. Armor is like the top stat for the most part, at least. Unless you're going like a skill build, then you can kind of sacrifice it in some places for skill power. But it also has damage to elites, which isn't the best. Personally, I would suggest health just because I love being tanky. And then the increased kill experience, I would personally roll that away for the ammo capacity, especially using AlphaBridge, because you're going to be only having like one major weapon, so you're going to be running through ammo no matter what primary you're using. You're running through, for example, assault rifle ammo. That's the only type of ammo you're going to be using. So it's nice to have the ammo capacity on there. And it also has somewhat low stamina, so like this isn't like a top min-max piece of gear, but if you're trying to at least get like that final fourth piece to get yourself the AlphaBridge bonus, and this is definitely something to look at. Alright, so the first stop on safe houses is Autumn's Hope in the northwest corner, not the very northwest, but just outside the dark zone. We got Autumn's Hope safe house here, and here we have ourselves a prototype of electronics mod, which isn't the best, but I think the max roll on electronics is somewhere around like 270, maybe even like 268, I think, or for the stat anyway. It could be firearm, stamina, electronics, but I think around high 260s, low 270s is the max, so 261 is really good to have, and then it also has 1,719 extra health. always better to have, if you're going for something like tanky, it's always better to have the armor over the health there. But if you're someone who's really just looking for electronic mods and something that'll at least help you stay alive a little bit longer, this one isn't bad. So the talent, I guess it's okay, but at the same time, it does kind of suck. I'm not even gonna put this in there. Fuck that shit. Alright guys, the next up on the list is the hub here, back where you started the game, pretty much at the docks down here in the bottom left corner of the map. Here at the weapons vendor, we've actually got a decent M700 tactical sniper rifle here. The headshot damage could be higher. Like I said before, the headshot damage could be up around the 175%. But 159% still isn't bad. The base damage is actually really high, like 113%. 113,000 damage. That's actually really high, especially even for bolt action snipers. But for talents, we got Swift, which increases our reload speed, which isn't all that good. Destructive, like I said before, always good on really any weapon. And elevated is guaranteed talent on this weapon, and it increases your damage by 10% when elevated more than 1.2 meters above your target. 1.2 meters in real life, 1 meter is about 3 feet, so that's not a lot. And obviously, even when you're not above the target, you're still not losing anything. You're just a gain of 10% when you're above the target, which is pretty easy to do. It actually, I really like this talent because it actually allows you to play the role the way it's intended to. Kind of like how SMGs and shotguns for close quarters and the snipers for distance. And obviously you want to try and perch yourself up somewhere, that way you can get a nice view of the street or whatever you're on. So it's kind of more like a realistic kind of a talent to have on a sniper. So what I would suggest is rolling away Swift for Brutal to get that extra headshot damage, especially since this one's not low, but not the highest it could be. And this kind of thing might be able to tear everything just apart. Alright, so we're still at the hub down here in the bottom left corner of the map. Now we moved over to the gear vendor, where we have a tactical pack with the talent Specialized. Now, as I've said in my previous video, Specialized to me is the best talent to have on a backpack, and I use it myself. Adds 200% of your firearms and stamina to your skill power, so you can stack that firearms, stack the stamina, and you can also get a boost to your skill power with this to increase your effectiveness of primarily your first aid. This one's actually rolled pretty nicely too. It already has that 56% ammo capacity, which is like the best minor attribute you can get on backpacks, and then you can roll away the major attribute of critical hit damage for the armor that you're going to want to have. Now, I personally would not be using this bag because I use firearms on my backpacks, but you can mix and match like any of your equipment to match what you want. Like, you don't have to have stamina on your backpack. It could be on your gloves, it could be on your mask, and then you can kind of switch it out with other things just to try and make the build work. So having stamina isn't a bad thing. If it had electronics, it would probably be worse, because this is the kind of thing you want to wear if you need electronics, which if you're running an electronics build, you don't really need it, so you don't really need the Specialized talent at all anyway. We come down here. Now we have a prototype stamina mod with armor on it. These rolls are kind of low. 235 is not high for stamina. 242 armor isn't all that high. I would say like 260 stamina and then 270 armor is like a really good roll. But having this combination is kind of a rare thing to come by, and it's not going to happen all the time. It has happened in the past with some good rolls, like the ones I have right now I got from vendors. But this one, this combination on a performance mod is a really good thing to have, and taking advantage of it now, if you don't have them yet, then I would definitely do so. For 168,000 each, you fill up all your slots with 5 of them. That's what, like 170,000, like 850,000 about credits for 5 of them to fill up your slots. So definitely check that out. Alright, so we headed on over to the Meat Locker Safe House, just here, just to the southwest of the first checkpoint entrance to the Dark Zone. Here we actually have a couple of things to point out. So, first off, we got a custom M870, which the M870s are the pump shotguns, so they have the highest damage for shotguns. 318% stagger, 143,000 base damage. The reason I'm pointing this one out is because the talents are great. I don't use shotguns, so I don't know what's a good base damage, but the talents are very good on this one. Self-preserved, critical hits with the weapon heal the user for 3% of the damage dealt. Now, as said, once again, I know I'm repeating it a lot, but I don't really use shotguns, so I don't know if it works anymore. But I know in the past, the game would take into account all of the pellets that came out of the shot. So when you use a shotgun, it shoots multiple projectiles to hit the target, and each of those projectiles have a different damage number. And because of that, each of them can also crit. So if you're using a shotgun, say you shoot it once and hit someone up close, so all the pellets hit, and you crit with 5 of those hits, that means that 15% of the damage that you dealt from all those shots combined is going to come back to you as health. So that's a good talent to have on shotguns if you have a high critical hit chance, which is very much helped out by the fact that it also has Vicious, which increases our critical hit chance by 10% while having more than 2 health segments, which at the same time kind of negates it due to the fact that you want to heal yourself, but if you're above 2 health segments, you don't really need health. But I guess it's more of like a sustainable kind of a thing, so you're getting shot and you're shooting at the same time, so like you're almost not taking damage while doing damage at the same time. And it also down here has Ferocious in the 3rd slot, which Ferocious has a high skill power requirement, so that's perfect to have in the 3rd slot. And if you're using it for PvE, which is like the 3 talents are perfect for that specifically, it's great to have that extra 10% damage to get on elites and named enemies. And we come down here and we find a sniper scope, the VX1 scope, 12 times zoom. The reason I'm going to like praise this attachment here, especially this week, because of the fact that I haven't seen a headshot damage primary sniper scope in the longest time. Like, I had plenty of them from like the last patch, but ever since the newest patch came out, I have not seen any. Like, they would have headshot damage, but only be like 5%, and then it would have optimal range. And it's just like, it's nice to have optimal range for snipers, but this one here, it's finally like the first time in, like I said, a long ass time that I've seen a headshot damage primary sniper scope. So right now, if you guys have had the same bad luck as me and not being able to find headshot damage on a sniper scope, which is what you want for snipers, take advantage of this now while it's here. 17.5% headshot damage, 4.5% optimal range, and 2.5 critical hit chance is always nice to have for the extra damage. So definitely try to take advantage of that. Alright, so here we are now at the Southpaw Safe House, and here we have a prototype performance mod with 2% pulse critical hit chance. It's a really nice talent to have. You don't want to do the critical hit damage. That would only get you about like 8% damage, over 8% critical hit chance. So it's a good performance mod to have, especially if you're using pulse, obviously, which I use pulse everywhere. But personally, I prefer the first aid self-heal talent. But anyway, anyone you're looking for some more critical hit chance, here you go. Alright, so here at the firewall now toward the northeast corner of the map, we have here, I guess I'll call it an honorable mention. Nothing too great, but something to point out, just in case anyone's actually interested in it. Here we have some tactical gloves. Firearms is the main stat, and the talent is Decisive, which increases your headshots with sidearms by 35% more damage. And as the major attributes which complement it perfectly, we got critical hit chance, pistol damage, obviously if you're going for a pistol build, which is really the only reason I would see anyone using the Decisive talent, and critical hit damage. I guess it's possible you might be able to roll a better major attribute, but I don't know all of them. But for me, whenever it comes to gloves, I always try to get critical hit chance and damage on them, so I don't see why that would be bad. The only other thing I would think would kind of make these things better is most of the time if you're making a pistol build, chances are you're using the shield skill, and you'll want electronics over firearms probably, I would think. But because of the fact that critical hit chance and damage and pistol damage are already pretty much perfect as they are, you can probably roll the firearms for stamina or electronics, whichever one you prefer. So just one to point out, nothing too great, but for anyone who's interested in like maybe a pistol only kind of a build, then there's that for you. Alright, so here we are at the East 31st Street, bottom right corner of the Dark Zone checkpoint. We have a nicely rolled SOCOM M1A here. It has 54.3% base damage. Why do I keep saying percent? 54.3k or 1,000 base damage, 161% headshot damage. This is really good on the semi-autos because I don't think they go much higher than that. And the talents got prepared, which is like perfect to have on every sniper rifle, I would suggest, because most of the time you're going to be pretty far from the target. That's kind of the point of snipers. Commanding, I would roll away for something else, and we also have brutal in the third slot, which increases our headshot damage, which is awesome. Obviously, we don't need it in the third slot because of high firearms, but it's still a very good talent to have. So nice base rolls and 2 good talents, which you can roll away the third to make it even better. We also have a prototype performance mod here with 6.5% ballistic shield health. Now, I know they came out with the defense skier build, which revolves around using the ballistic shield with SMGs, which is actually a pretty viable build. I've noticed like a lot of people using it. So this mod I'm sure will help with that. I haven't tried it personally myself, but to have more ballistic shield health, that way you can it'll absorb a lot more damage while you're using it during its duration. It'll last longer, so that's nice to have. Just remember, this is the Dark Zone vendor, so it's going to cost you some Phoenix credits. Not a lot, but for anyone who doesn't really play in a Dark Zone, sorry, but yep. Alright guys, so we're now here at the West 46th Street Dark Zone vendor. This one is a doozy. So, start off right off the bat with a lightweight M4. As said before, in any of my videos, I will say that the lightweight M4 is probably the best assault rifle in the game right now. If you compare it to the police M4, the type of recoil on each weapon is different. So the lightweight M4 has vertical recoil, while the police M4 has more of like a horizontal, kind of circular style recoil, which is kind of annoying. It's a lot easier to control the lightweight M4 due to just having to hold down a little bit to control it. And this one here, it's got pretty low base damage, I will admit that, 1.2k less than my God Roll 1. But the enemy armor damage is pretty good on it, 1 less than mine. It also has Prepared and Deadly. Prepared, as I've said before, I don't really like Prepared due to the fact that I went to the shooting range and tested it personally. That 30 meters is way too far. Like, you can hit your shots at 30 meters, but it's... a lot of the time you're not going to be 30 meters or more away from your target. You're going to be getting a lot more advantage out of responsive than you are prepared with being, under 15 meters from the target. But anyway, it also has Deadly in the third slot, which isn't a high skill power. Actually, I don't think it requires any skill power to get that talent. But it's a nice talent to have either way. It's not the best for assault rifles, so if you're not using an AlphaB build, chances are this roll isn't that great. It also has Commanding, which is definitely a roll-away talent. So for this one, you would probably keep Prepared and Deadly, and then take away Commanding for something like Brutal, or maybe if you want to get Responsive, which, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like a balance kind of thing. That way you're pretty much guaranteed, no matter what distance you're at, the extra damage. So it's not a bad idea. But other than that, not a bad weapon. It's not, the rolls on it could definitely be better. And the base damage is a little low. But other than that, I guess for the fact that it's Dark Zone funds, it's pretty hefty price, 416,000. But if you guys really need one, you got spare Phoenix, or not Phoenix credits, but the Dark Zone funds, and there's that for you. And we also have a prototype performance mod here with First Aid Self Heal 5.5%, which I think the max is 6%. So 5.5 is really good to have. So this one's definitely, like, I wouldn't skip this one, especially if you're someone who plays solo. Really anyone that can take advantage of it, because most of the time really everyone's using first aid anyway, right? And for 21,000 Dark Zone funds, it's really not that expensive. You get 4 of them, and you got yourself 22% first aid self heal increase. So you're getting an extra 22% health every time you use your first aid. So that's definitely something to look forward to. And that's a good one right there. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this week. We went through all the vendors. There were some really nice things this week. It kind of started off slow with nothing too special, but it ended up becoming a pretty good week for vendor reset, and a lot of items that are pretty helpful, especially for specific builds, and snipers and shotguns were really like a standout kind of a thing this week, on top of a lot of nice mods and all that. including a nice stamina armor mod, which had low rolls, but it was still, if you don't have them, that kind of matchup on your mods, and that's definitely something I would take advantage of. But I just want to give a thank you to the guys, for anyone who has been watching my weekly ones. This is really my only second full weekly reset vendor video. My other one was just on a specific weapon. So like I said, I appreciate anyone who watches it and gives us feedback. These are, in a short amount of period of time, these are like my popular videos right now, so I'm gonna probably keep it up. I ended up getting some comments and likes, and I really appreciate the feedback, because I know you can just view the video and kind of just skip it and not really give a like, but and also like the view time on a video. So like, I know there's a lot of people who kind of come watch a little bit and then kind of leave, which is okay. You guys do whatever the heck you want. If you enjoy my videos and stick around, hey, I appreciate it. If you don't, then you don't. But yeah, that'll be it for this week, and I hope to see you guys next week on next Friday, and I'll catch you guys later.